real world journalism now?
Oh, y'all think y'all Oprah now. Oh, y'all think you Barbara Walters. Okay.
Robert.
Right.
Robert.
Hey community, it's Juno from Ken Does Dolls. What's brewing today?
Juno and Ken Does Dolls.
Barbie versus Bratz.
And justice for Nolan Wells. So get your cups ready for Minoritea Report.
Hey, welcome to Minoritea Report. It is Auntea Kerel.
It's Auntea Dawon.
And it's Auntea Jerrell.
Hey,
Happy Monday, everybody.
Hey. we back from all across the world this week.
Well, I have to say, I'm the one that's been holding it down. The United
That is true.
States. So, we did a little,
switcheroo. That is very true.
Yeah.
And community, we'll probably get into more of that next week. We'll kind of get into, and actually we have another guest next week, so be aware for that as well. But as you see on the screen, ready? And this is going to be a fun episode because, correct me if I'm wrong, this may be only the second episode, and this is episode 389, that we've actually had a straight guest on, which I'm very excited about. Very excited about.
Not you outing.
I know, outing from the jump.
That's fair.
We are a predominantly black and brown queer-based podcast, but we represent all the voices of
blackness.
Yes. So
period.
There was space for everyone.
I know that's
on the
right.
Podcast.
Well, community, we have Juno, and you might know his handle as Ken Does Dolls, or Hey, it's Black Guy or whatever.
Hey, it's the Black Guy. Yeah, that was early on.
So you might know that. But welcome to Minoritea Report, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. It's been a crazy time, but it's a good time.
Yeah, I know that. Good to see you. And I know Dawon extra excited for this episode because community, you know how much he loves Amara and all the years talking about his dolls.
His daughter in the back there. His daughter.
So this is an episode for Dawon. It's for all three of us. We enjoy that, but Dawon is on a whole nother caliber. And then look at that, Juno's like his IG and his TikTok, a whole nother level where it's awesome. And so before they even kick it off I want to say congratulations. I hear you recently got married.
Yes,
Congrats,
very recently.
Congratulations.
Hey.
All right, let's go.
How's that feeling? Does it feel different? Or are you like, okay, no, it's always felt good.
It's been a whirlwind because like I got the wedding, did a doll thing the weekend before then, and then I went into a 2-week camp, and this is like my first week of actually sitting down with my now wife and like being like, wow, we did this, but still, yeah, it's a lot, but it's been beautiful just in terms of the celebration and our relationship. It's all been really good stuff.
Oh, I love that.
Congratulations, that's beautiful. This is the year of marriages because everybody getting married this year.
Everybody boot up. Yes, ma'am. Seriously. But as we get into like the meat and the potatoes and splitting up the doll hairs here, from what I gather, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is maybe a newer hobby, or is it something that like started like in your brain years ago, and it's just only been recent times that you've really dove head first, whatever the word is. Thank you. Dove head first into like this community, this world.
I mean, it started for me in 2020, as I'm sure many people's odd hobbies did. But I actually started with my partner, and we would just go to the store for groceries. And one day, we were like, let's see what's in the doll aisle, and we saw a curvy Barbie for the first time because we didn't know that was. I never bought Barbies. I never, I didn't have like this repressed feeling that I needed to go collect. It was all new to me. But we saw one and it looked like her. I was like, oh, she got some hips. Like that's you. And she had a bad outfit, so we had to buy a second one that had a better outfit. And the rest was history. Like we had, it opened up a whole new world. But it was all 2020 and all just because we happened to walk down the aisle that day.
Yeah. That's interesting. Like, because like most people were like, oh no, when I was a kid, I played with He-Man, and then I never saw a He-Man like me, and then I wanted the doll over here. And so the 2020 is very recent. It's a while ago, but it's very recent in the sense of like finding a hobby that's literally like taking on a whole life of its own. That's interesting to me.
I think one of the things that's really fascinating, because I've had this experience personally, is there is such a huge doll community. And, like, I don't want to be elitist in my nomenclature when we talk about doll community, because when people hear doll community, they think of, the Victorian dolls, 50,000 Victorian dolls sitting on the bed with their eyeballs staring back at you.
Them creepy ones.
Anything wrong with that.
Right.
No, they can stay over there. They can stay over there.
Like a scary movie to me.
Not in my house.
But that's what comes to mind. And so, when I kind of got into this whole thing, it was really more of an artistic expression. I went to school for fashion design. I had a 1997 African American holiday Barbie that I just had as decoration, and I thought, wow, I would love to just, like, why don't I do like some outfits for her? And I started looking at buying something, to like change it for the seasons, because I had her out and, it would be like March and she'd be sitting back there on my Zoom calls and people are like, what's that on your da, 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 da. Long story short, it doesn't take long to go down a rabbit hole when you start looking up doll clothes, doll designers, like face painters, like it's a whole world. And so I would love to hear, just for the community, can you just share a little bit about, who you are, what you talk about on your socials, just to kind of root everyone on where you're coming from today, and then we got a whole bunch of questions and dive into the stuff.
Gotcha. I feel like I fell into a weird category of just content in general, because at the time it was like a random video that got me started. Right, I was opening a doll in my basement with a weird sound, and then it was like, oh, there's comments telling me that I should check out this new doll line. So I would go and check out the new doll line. And then as I started to become more aware of what was actually on the market and what was out there, I turned into a green screen creator where I have the picture behind me and I'm saying, this is a new doll that's coming out. This is what I think about it. And I feel like I've landed somewhere now in kind of a mix of those two, of being like someone who shows off their collection and the things that I like about a doll, or I'll unbox it and give a quick review, or I'll just kind of be a faux news, not gossip, but like a news channel where I'm just announcing what's new in the doll world. But I'm also not always on top of things. I'm not always the first to post it. I don't put that pressure on myself. But
no.
I think just like a commentator, reviewer, creator, I guess it's kind of been all of those things wrapped up in one.
I think what's amazing about what you do, and I think we fall into this category, is that I think for so many of us, we've heard that kind of that saying that there's, you need a seat at a table. And then we've heard counter to that, especially in the Black community, that, well, wait a minute, if there's not a seat at that table, that's not the only table that there can be. And so, you can create your own table. And one of the things that mediums like TikTok and YouTube and Instagram and, podcasts affords a lot of us is the ability to express ourselves and also create community. So we create the table, we bring seats, and we create space for other people. And so I think that's one of the really positive things, one of the many positive things that, your content creation brings for the doll community. And really just beyond that, it's really interesting that, people have the opportunity to hear from someone who, who might not be the stereotypical picture of what one would think of when they hear about I'm getting my doll news from.
Yeah. But also too, though, like on top, I was going to say real quick.
Yeah.
the representation of it as well too, you know, like being a straight black man, like you diving into something that typically in black culture and specifically with black men is not something that we are often ever really exposed to when it comes to dog clothes. Like that's associated with women and all those other things that goes with it. And so like to see you doing what you do, I look at that, not again, I'm not someone who's into dolls, but I also think about like, well shit, I never think about thoughts, but what else is something that I never really gave a thought about that I might also be naturally just curious in? And it's just something freeing about that, seeing someone else dive into something in 2020, just a couple years ago. You know, I'm like, well, shit, I guess I still got time. What's next?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna piggyback off of that because, like, in my mind, like, because, and I'll get to the question, but I almost got a preface or something. So growing up, like, my mom loves dolls. Like, if you go to our house now, she has like almost like the Victorian dolls, like you're saying, Dawon, and then just like all these different kind of dolls. My sister loved dolls, et cetera, et cetera. And so I used to like take my sister's like Barbies and dolls, and not really for the sake of just like wanting to like have it as like almost like a fashion show and all this stuff. It was literally I would like sit there and try to like see how many times I could flip them and all this stuff, almost like figure skating and gymnastics kind of things. I remember like sitting on like the couch that we had in the basement and sitting there and like trying to see how tight I could maybe get the bun, because if I could get the bun tighter, I could flip it even more. Like it was just weird things. It just different ways, and then I would maybe cut the hair and things like that. So anyway, I preface all that stuff because I remember my mom. Right, I know,
That's
right?
not a bullying you were doing.
It's bizarre. But I remember my mom saying, and sorry, Mom, if I'm telling all the business, like, stop playing with your sister's dolls. Leave your sister's dolls alone. And a lot of it's, a lot of it's probably rooted in maybe the boys don't play with dolls. And my parents are pretty good about play with what you want to play with. So it wasn't too often it was that, but a lot of times it's probably just leave your sister's stuff alone. But a lot of the cultural stuff behind it sometimes in black culture is boys play with this, girls play with this. And a lot of times they would be like, well, you just a sissy or you got too much sugar in your tank. But to be as a straight black man in this culture where that comes from,
And
how
grown.
do you... Right, like, and grow. Like, how do you navigate maybe the side comments? Like, what do your parents say now as a grown man? Like, you spending your own damn money, you in your own damn house, but that doesn't stop maybe some of this culture insensitivity stuff that kind of comes behind it. Like, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, I feel like in a lot of ways I have a cheat code. I have a lot of cheat codes, but for one, I come from a family of artists, so I think there's a huge element of judgment that just wasn't really there to begin with.
I love that.
If I think about some of the videos that I would have posted or like pinned on my page for a while would be of all my friends reacting, and so it'd be a bunch of straight guys react to my doll collection, and there's like a shock and people just being like, cool, this is dope, and that happens because I went to art school with a bunch of guys that were weird and had weird hobbies, and we all played music together and made music and played games. So like I think me falling into something unique was like, yeah, it makes sense. Like I think I surrounded myself with people that were on the same page, and I also came from a family of people that were really just supportive of anything creative, and I wasn't putting myself in debt that I couldn't recover from, so my parents had no reason to judge, and they're like, you know what, that's pretty cool. And I mean, even my dad, like you were saying, I mean, he's also, he's a pianist, and I felt, a freedom to express myself creatively, however, always, but in sharing it with him, I didn't feel afraid, and I also, it's been embraced in a way that's like really, really beautiful. Like a couple years ago, he got me, or maybe last year, he got me like a beautiful early 2000s holiday Barbie that he found in a vintage store, and my mom was like, he was so excited to get this for you. He saw it and he thought of you.
Dope.
So I think coming from that support has given me a huge crutch. And I also started this with my girlfriend, so I wasn't worried about how it was gonna, affect my dating life, or I wasn't thinking about it as something that was gonna mark me as a weirdo. I think it just got to be something fun that I was doing with somebody I cared about, and later it grew into something that I could share. And I think I'm very conscious of all of those defenses, or all of those, all those elements of support that I had in going into this, because it would not be the same for for some of my friends and for most people that watch me, like even people that are queer that, you know, have families that aren't as accepting, like struggle and, you know, to fully own the hobby or to engage with this stuff without being judged. So it's I'm lucky is the short answer. But yeah, there's a lot to it.
I love that. And to
You
see,
gotta,
I think we need that representation. Like we always preach like that's just the spectrum of everything of being black and queer, but just being black, period. Like folks trying to put us in rabbit holes and boxes and things like that. And I love that freedom to just be. Like if we all just afforded and gave people just the opportunity to just be, this world would be a lot nicer of a place to live, you know, instead of just constantly saying you can't because of someone else is being scared of something or being scared to be ridiculed and things like that, which I get. We all get scared to be ridiculed about things. But if just simply just giving folks the freedom to just simply be and to express, it's a beautiful thing. So I love that story.
I'm going to encourage our listeners, if you're not watching this episode on YouTube, head on over there because I want to draw attention to what's behind you in your doll
I know
room.
that's right.
And we have to ask, a classic numbers question because, people really want to know. At your last count, how many dolls are currently occupying space in your home?
And I saw that in 2025 video, so I'm just curious where it's been since the end of 2025.
I feel bad. This is a horrible representation of my collection in general because this whole shelf, they're knocked over, they're picked through. Because in our wedding we had a bunch of the Barbies from my collection as centerpieces. So I dug through all of this and took them out and swapped their clothes. So this room is chaos. Beyond,
so those are the commoners then. Damn, they got left behind.
Damn, don't let it here.
To answer your question, it's 750 plus at this point. It's too much. It's far too much.
I love it though.
And as your collection spans from, Barbie to Bratz to high-end lines like Integrity Toys and so on and so forth, what would you say draws you? I mean, obviously you're providing content, so you're speaking about, new releases, whether you're collecting them or not. But with your personal collection, the dolls that you buy and that you're attracted to, what draws you to a specific doll? Is it the face sculpt? Is it the fashion? Is it the nostalgia? Is it something else entirely?
I think that's something that's been shifting a lot recently, especially, as I get to those counts and I look around the room and I'm like, I can't walk in here anymore because there's so many dolls and boxes. So I think, initially it was the excitement of something being new. If it was a new line or a new collection, I'd be like, all right, let me get those. And I would justify the impulse to get something new by saying I'm making content. And then I would never make the content. So there was a while that I was like fully disconnected, I think, or not fully, but at least somewhat disconnected from the real value of the dolls. But I feel like recently I've tried to pull back and also, prioritize some of those things that you were saying, just the fashion of the doll, how the hair is, how the screening is, if there is like special meaning to it. Like I just the other day bought the Miley Cyrus doll. And it was probably more than I would have wanted to pay for it. She was like $60, and I was like, come on, really? But anyway, I picked her up, and for that, I was like, this isn't the most amazing doll I've ever seen, but my partner was rewatching Hannah Montana the other day, and like I grew up with that show, and it felt like a little sentimental. So sometimes it's as simple as that, just like having a connection to the doll, or I think another big thing. I'll pull one of these out, but this is from the Naturalistas line. This is one of the very few like black owned, black founded brands that are currently out. And I just think every time I see them, one, just because it's a black brand, I'm like, I'm gonna get those. I'm gonna get the new dolls. But they have hair with specific textures, and so what that stands for means a lot to me too, right? Just getting to see that representation in the dolls, and I've spent a good number of holidays and birthdays the last few years finding ways to gift the black women in my life one of those, one of the black dolls with the afro.
Absolutely.
So it all varies, but I think it's yeah.
There's representation for and it's a two-part question now that's coming in my head. Does representation as a black straight man, do you feel like you need a doll to represent you? A, and then where's the umbrella or the, I guess, the lineage of a doll versus a figurine? Like, is a figurine the header and then everything falls underneath, or is a doll the header and everything falls underneath?
I feel like I've like separated myself from the larger world of whatever figurine could mean from you know, like I could get into characters that I loved growing up and all that. I feel like I try to keep myself in the doll world for the sake of this not getting any crazier than it is. But I think, I mean, like I was mentioning earlier, there wasn't necessarily like a lacking when I was growing up. Like I had action figures, I had, you know, toys that I would smash into each other and storylines with that. Like I was creative in my play. And I think I felt like that got to be its own thing. So when I, in my adulthood, came to dolls, I think what sparked interest in them and like what role they play in my life and in my like interest is kind of separate from all that. I feel like I lost the question a little bit, but yeah, I think they all feel like their own thing, and I feel like I don't need representation. I mean, I think it's cool whenever they make a guy doll, and I think looking forward, if there's any way for me to like advocate to bring more people into this world, like more straight guys or just more guys in general, or people that, you know, see it a certain way. I think there is so much opportunity in just the feeling of having a little person represent you. I think that's something that everyone I've gotten to share it with has felt really cool about. But also, like, it's a way to engage with art, and I think that's another thing that's been really really rewarding for me. Is like I'm connected to designers, to stylists, to artists, and people in fashion that like channel their interest through dolls, or that have, you know, have a hidden interest in dolls, but may necessarily, you know, not necessarily like spend their time doing that. It's a really good connection point, I think, for people everywhere, and I just appreciate that they can offer that.
Yeah, I'd love to piggyback on this whole conversation about representation, because we've seen accessibility to manufacturers. So that's afforded a lot of individuals to go out and start creating their own doll lines, as you just showed. And I'm thinking about, you know, as a content creator and as a doll enthusiast, you know, how do you think major brands like Mattel, MGA, are doing right now with diverse representation? And then I have a follow up to that, which is really around what's your take on, you know, how these major brands are designing black dolls? Are they getting it right, or is it kind of giving afterthought?
And if you got a coin that's coming, you can tell us to shut up.
No, I mean
I'm sorry. I asked that question because I know in watching your videos, you've never shied away from giving honest, thoughtful criticism to brands, you know, for a lot of different things. And so I'm curious about your thoughts on the representation piece.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's totally valid. I literally 20 minutes before this posted a video criticizing an MGA event that I attended. So that's where I'm at. But no, I mean, I think it's always complicated, and I think I've been, especially this year, like given two one of a kind, like once in a lifetime opportunities to get a behind the scenes look at what these companies are doing, who's working there. And I think, like with most things, like when you can decenter the idea of like, this is a corporation taking action, and then you get to see, oh, these are people working together, making decisions under an umbrella. And I've just gotten to talk to so many people in the last few months that I never considered were a part of this conversation, like the people that, you know, deciding that they're choose the hair and deciding the fashion, and that have to work through different materials and that get lines approved, or, you know. So I guess in saying all that, like I have a lot of sympathy for what's happening on the individual level. And I don't agree with every doll that comes out, with every form of representation, but I think there's definitely diversity in the room across all of these spaces, and I think it's really good to see. And I think they're also very aware of us, or people like me, and what we have to say. So I think, if anything, even when they do maybe slip up, I appreciate knowing that they're listening and that they're aware, like that we have enough of a voice at this point to call it out. So it could be better. And I think it will continue to get better, but yeah, it's a big conversation, and I'm trying to to wrap it all up concisely, but yeah.
There's been kind of a trend that has happened around the quality of clothing and face paints and all these kind of things that have been happening. And, with the injection of so many new doll brands and this voraciously growing doll community of collectors that are hyper focused on high quality, realistic looking clothing, high quality face paint, hair quality, all these kinds of things. This is a hypothetical.
Hmm.
If a major doll company were to put you in charge of a line tomorrow, what would be one of the very first executive decisions or creative changes that you would make from your unique perspective based on what you see and what you value out of dolls?
I think I would give a line of dolls just the most basic, the most accessible fashions, like pluck a person off the street with some moderate style. You got a nice oversized tee and some cool pants, or like a simple colored dress. Just a line of dolls that go back. I mean, they had a basics Barbies line in the early 2000s and kind of brought it back. But I think something that could help maybe emphasize quality and bring in a new consumer base would just be to give us simple dolls again, and then let the fashions be separate. I think there's been such a huge push away from good fashion packs. Like if you look, kind of like you were mentioning earlier, just like Barbies of the 90s or early
Mhm.
2000s, but primarily, 90s and before, they had some crazy cool fashions. They looked like people that you would want to dress like on the street, and they didn't look like, colorful mashups of clashing patterns that if you saw on a person, you'd be like, "Are you okay?" Like it was aspirational. And so I think finding a way to give us a foundation that's accessible to more people, that even kids could look at and be like, oh, that they're dressed like my family, and then you give them the option to style them. I think that would be something that could really reinvigorate a lot of people and also
Mhm.
encourage creativity. So I hope to see that at some point, you know.
Yeah.
Have you found an era of dolls that you particularly gravitate towards? Like, since it's been what, 6 years since you've kind of gotten into it, and obviously for a while they're focused on new releases and things like that. But as you maybe have more time to kind of go back and be like, oh, hold on, I really fucked with that 1999 era. That was like a shit right there. Or
Yeah.
no, you just kind of, it depends on the day.
I'm reaching for something now, but there is this was the early 2000s. This was fashion fever. So I have
Okay.
I have a couple of these, not too many, but this I think was I think their peak. If you look at, not their peak, obviously that's debatable, but for me,
Yeah. Yeah.
as somebody that grew up in the early 2000s, I feel like this was how the people, how girls were dressing on TV.
It
If I
was.
saw a decom, like a Disney Channel movie, it was going to be people in something like that. And I think feeling a direct connection to the fashion of the dolls was it was really important. And even looking back, I feel something looking at that. I'm not like, oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
like, oh, I that's a look.
Yeah.
There's a clear identity there. So I think late 90s into early 2000s, both just because of the fashion itself and the quality of the clothes, I think that was kind of the peak before it started to slope down. But also just the stories and the feelings and the energy that you get from that. I think that was all. It's all been speaking to me since I've discovered it.
Do you
I think
think
one.
real world fashion kind of influences what the fashion trends for dolls are as well? Because you mentioned the early 2000s, 90s, and I feel like the young kids are going back to that exact same era right now. Do you think it'd be very easy to get dolls clothes to kind of go back to that more early 2000s look, or that simple kind of idea that you were just mentioning with doll clothes? Do you think that that's something that's, if they hired you on staff, you could just boop and it'd be easy? Or is it more moving components that you think would have to happen before that does?
I think what I've learned is that kids are in an interesting place right now. And like I very recently, when I got to go out to MGA, just heard a few things about what dolls are really successful from their recent lines. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with Rainbow High, but for
Yeah.
basically the first chunk of the 2020s, they were dominating the whole doll industry with like ridiculously good quality, realistic fashions, often based off of like specific designers or you know, designer brands or streetwear or just like certain aesthetics. Like they delivered on everything that a fashion loving doll collector could want. A little bit weird with the heads, but anyway, you know, they existed for a long time, and I have a huge wall of them on display. I love them dearly, but they they got turned into a glitter and makeable slime line, and they sold better than they ever did as fashion dolls, you know, or as like strictly fashion focused dolls. And I think, unfortunately, you know, there's multiple reasons that happened, but from what I understand, the numbers were trending higher when they went for the slime gimmick and the glitter legs. And even if that's not, you know, that didn't create a long lasting fan base, it gave the company the financial outcome that they desired. So uh, I don't want to say I don't have hope, but I feel like it would take a lot to really reinforce that. I guess maybe even like the patience to want to engage with like style and with fashion. Like I think maybe where Bratz came in the early 2000s was like giving like tweens something that they could identify with, but tweens love TikTok now and they want to be influencers. So like, you know, do you make a doll that's an influencer, or do you just skip that whole demographic and focus in on the little kids or the adult collectors? So there, I don't want to pretend I have a deep enough insight of the market to really know what would be successful. I just like, I wish, you know, I wish that it felt like that was the right move or the right way to go. But I guess we'll see.
I'd love to shift a little bit to kind of like, you know, still within your experience, but shifting a little bit more to like the community and your role within the community. And let's kind of like talk a little bit about the doll community at large. You know, as you've got more into your version of the doll community and how you interact, you know, with dolls yourself as a collector, as a content creator, and as others, and then interact with other people that are industry folks that are creating dolls, assets, all these kinds of things, and then those that are collecting. What would you say is the thing that you enjoy the absolute most about interacting with fellow collectors, either online or in person? And then conversely, what's, you know, perhaps one thing that just really annoys you and gets on your nerves about the doll collector community right now?
Um, I think I stand in a, again, like, you know, like I mentioned with like my family being creatives, I think I get a similar I get a similar pass to a lot of drama in being the straight guy in the space, because a lot of the things that I may say that people would have issue with are like, ah, he's a straight guy, he doesn't get it, you know? Like I think so I think I get to deal in a lot more of the positive space of the doll community. And so just people sharing their passion, sharing things that they are excited about, or like getting to be excited about something and sharing that excitement with all the people in the comments, or getting to know other creators and like seeing how they're feeling about things, or connecting with people that I otherwise would not have connected with. I think it is a community, and it's one that sometimes feels like very oddly isolated to my phone. But that's shifted a lot more recently because I started posting on Facebook last year. So now all my parents and their friends and, you know, family
Yeah.
friends are like, I saw your video. I'm like, oh, all right. So, but you know, I think even in that though, I've like gotten to speak to people that are really proud of me, that watched me grow up, and I think that's beautiful. Or that have, you know, found new connections, or been like, one of my coworkers says they watch you. I'm like, oh. So I think it's just like feeling so involved and also very seen in an interesting way. Like all of that has been rewarding for me as somebody that's always had a desire to be a creative and like,
Yeah.
to put it bluntly, like to be seen. Like that was part of
Yeah.
my, you know, like my passion as a kid was making music, and I always just wanted to be able to put out, I don't want to say as a kid, but I went to school for music. So growing up, I made music, and that was what I wanted to share with the world. And I think in COVID, I graduated in 2020, and then slipping into content creation, like that got to kind of fill that space that I didn't really get to take the path I thought it would take. And
I was
so
going
it's
to ask you that because I saw that, like, I saw early, like, I like going to, like, the beginning of a lot of folks, like, content stuff. That's where you get the gems, and that's where I noticed, like, the music content. Similar to me, like, I used to produce music as well, but I found doing this podcast and just, like, the content and things like that also kind of fulfill some of that creative, whatever it is in the brain. It's not exactly what music does, but somehow it still is like, oh, hold on, my brain is satisfied or satiated with this creativity. And do you find that you still miss music, or is it like this has really kind of filled that void a little bit in the brain for you?
I think I will always love music, and I'll always love creating it. I think there was a level of like frustration that stopped me from really ever putting my full energy towards it, which I think is the case for a lot of people. Like it you know, it can be fulfilling to a point if you don't take off at the right time, or if you don't always find the right opportunities. And I think for me, it's something that will always be special to me, and also something that will always mean a lot. But I've also like found, like, it was never the only thing I wanted to do. So I think being able to like develop a whole new set of skills through doing this, like I teach a camp every year that's like working in multiple art forms. So like I stay connected to being an artist outside of content, and in that camp for the past couple years, I've now had a new wealth of, you know, information. I'm like, okay, well, now I know a lot more about video editing, so I can teach these kids about timing and zooms and edits and comedy and voiceover, and like getting to see that come together and like share that has been, it's just like I found new ways to fulfill, like you were saying, just like that desire. So I still love music, but I think I also love that this has given me an opportunity to expand the way that I can tell stories without like, you know, like leaving that part of myself behind.
Yeah, no, I love that.
I do have just a few more questions, and then we've got a little kind of like rapid fire this or that kind of thing that we'll do to kind of wrap up this segment. But I'd love to just, you know, you talked about being seen, and that has obviously the personal intrinsic, you know, kind of connotation, but then there's also the real you know, physical aspect of being seen, you know, because you're a content creator and you're putting yourself out there, sharing your perspectives, you know, with the world through different mediums. And I'm just curious, you know, like turning on the camera, turning on the lights, you know, knowing what you're going to talk about, building your story, executing that, doing the editing, all those kind of things. And then seeing the response that you get over time and building your followership. I'm curious, you know, has there been anything that surprised you, either about yourself or about how you've been received within the doll community or just the community at large, about your presence now that you've been more open and vocal and a content creator around this particular subject matter?
I think more than anything, I'm surprised at the lack of criticism I receive. I feel like I welcome so much reasonable criticism every time I show up. Like I feel like most days I'm tired. I'll open up the camera in the middle of the night, sit on a couch in my bonnet, and I'll mumble through some stuff. And I often think, I'm like, why, like, y'all really set the bar so low for me. And you know, and at times I'm like, I do wonder if I put more effort into how I presented, like, would I be even farther along than I was? But then I've also, you know, heard from other creators that, like, in showing up the way that I do, very honestly, very blatantly, without a bunch of, you know, all the extra things, like, it's helped other people feel more comfortable to be more genuine. And I think that's also been very valuable to hear. So I think I'm a little torn with that, and like should I clean up eventually and like start making you know,
say crunchy and real.
But seriously, it's like, Because here's what happens when you see some of these people in person, be like, "Oh, that ain't the truth."
But also, and we get this a lot because we're creating content in different medium. But I think one of the reasons why our podcast, been on for 7 years, and the community is so our community, our listeners are so just tight and genuine, and they really respond to the vulnerability. When we say crunchy, it's not that, we're delivering bad content, but it might not be super polished in terms of well, I don't want to say the production because, we do a pretty good job.
Good.
Thank you, Kerel. but there is an authenticity here, and I think
Right.
that's also something that you bring to your craft. Is it's not just about the bells and whistles, and there's something really beautiful about turning on your phone or laptop, and just speaking directly to the community from your heart, and just letting the chips fall where they may. And I think people really respond to that. Have you found, you mentioned that you haven't received a lot of criticism. How have you found people receiving, your points of view, and especially as you think about how your delivery message has maybe evolved over the time? What's the reception like from your perspective?
I mean, I think something that's like really been heavy on my mind for the past few weeks, which is a wild few weeks. But when I went to the event at MGA, like we got to speak to people that have been at the company since, Bratz was a thing, like, and people who worked on the new line that just got released, like a lot of the creators behind that team, and just in having conversations with them and about their process, and hearing at the end, I'll be like, oh, this is so great. I love what you guys are doing. You're doing amazing work. And they'd be like, thanks. Also, I love your videos. I'm like, oh, like I think being perceived by, after all these years, by the people who are at the root of all of this, right? That are creating the things that I talk about, that everybody talks about, that everybody goes to the store and sees on the shelf, like knowing that that I can reach those people. I think that feeling is like one that I'm really, it's surreal. It's surreal to think that me sitting in my house, after a day at work, in the hour that I have free, just blowing whatever comes to the top of my head, and like quickly editing it before I crawl into bed at 1:30, trying not to wake up my partner. Like those things are traveling across the world to people that are making incredibly important decisions, or that are, or people that are also doing the same thing in their house. Like I think being able to reach so many people, it's becoming more tangible to me, and it's really shifting how I'm trying not to let it shift how I make things, how I'm making things, but it does shift how I feel about what I do, and in a really positive but also overwhelming way.
Do you get a lot of other straight men, particularly, saying, I wish I could play with dolls, or I wish I had this hobby, or anything like that, like, and they're too scared to do so, and like they kind of almost like confide in you, like keep going, man, because I wish I could do XYZ?
Yeah, I've definitely had those comments, and like I mentioned before, like I've seen people mention struggles that they have with feeling accepted, and I think it's always tricky for me to tell people to be uncomfortable, or to tell people to push back against, the things that are restricting them, because it's not always that easy. But I'm grateful that I'm able to provide a space for people to see that happening, even if they can't necessarily embrace it yet, or if they have to wait until they find the right partner or the right environment. I'm glad that I'm, whenever those comments do come up, I'm happy to just like keep doing what I'm doing, so that they can hopefully come back to it at a time when they might need that push, or that's my hope.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that people who have no visibility to this hobby have really no idea is that this hobby is not cheap. It is not cheap. And so
Gotta have that money.
I'm not trying to count your coins at all, but I'm more curious about, how do you manage collector's guilt, especially when there are so many new releases, there are so many different kinds of dolls out there. And we're talking about current,
Yeah.
not to mention old stuff, vintage stuff, that becomes available or you become aware of it. How do you manage collector's guilt when you're looking at, oh, I spent X amount, last month on dolls, and, how do you manage that?
I mean, for one, I think it helps that I have fewer vices. I drink coffee, and that's pretty much it. I'll go out to get a drink a drink in the morning, but like I'm mostly, this is where my money is wasted, and and
Oh, so there's no boozy purchases happening on your
no, I
end.
mean, and that does, I'm sure it makes a difference. But also, especially like when I first started collecting, the line that got me into it, the one that if I was more prepared would be lining the shelf right there. Those were fashionistas, like the Barbie fashionistas, and each one of those was $10. So if we went to the store every season to see which new ones came out, and maybe over the course of that month, I spent $50 on all the new dolls. So early on, it was easy to build up a collection just by finding things on clearance or going with the budget lines. And as I got more serious into collecting, I think by the time I was ready to spend $80 on a doll, I was starting to get money from content. And I think I've, in my mind at least, gotten to a point where like whatever I'm spending, I'm making on that specifically. So if I also work, I work every day beyond content, and so that if I keep that money for my life and all the real responsibilities I have as an adult, then like I can be like, oh, well, that came off the TikTok fund, so it's all good. Like it's a lot. It is undoubtedly a lot of money, but it's money that I feel like I'm earning for this thing, and I'm keeping it in a loop as much as I can. But that said, I have wasted a lot of money, and I've gotten a lot of dolls that I didn't need to get and that I saw go on sale later, and I'm like, well, why did I buy that when I bought it if I could have waited? Like I have that feeling often.
Damn you, Amazon Prime Day.
Exactly. My mom raised me on finding the best deal, and I still grocery shop like I have no money. Like I have the mentality to save wherever I can. So it does. I think the guilt mostly comes from like, I could have got that cheaper, or I didn't need to buy that at all.
Right.
So, it's a
That's
part of the process.
I know we'll probably get into
Precious.
curiosity here shortly, or probably by the next, but house on fire, tornado coming, somebody robbing you, gotta get out the house. What's the one doll you grabbing?
It's a very tricky question.
Uh-huh.
I feel like, if
They're
I'm
all
going off,
listening, by the way.
right there. And the girls back there like, huh?
Is it
I
me?
mean,
I know I didn't make it to the wedding.
Right.
but no, I mean, like sentimentally, it would be the first one that we got. But I think if I thought any more deeply than that, I would be here forever. So I'll just go with the first. The first
Okay.
doll would have to be the one that I brought with me just to hold on to that memory.
Yeah.
But it would be horrible.
He'd be
Is your
like, I'm
dog-
grabbing them all, bitch.
Right. Is there one that you got that you're like, this can go, like, but you just still holding on to it?
A lot. if I there's a
It's all on the ground. He looking on the ground.
I just had to throw all these in a bin. They were
See,
past
that's
the
what
table.
that's what my niece's bin look like. They be like all the hair all matted and all this money I done spent on all these damn
Yeah.
dolls. Like Monster High and Rainbow High and all that. Uncle Rail, and I go over there and that shit in the bin. Okay.
Yeah, no, it gets like that. There's plenty. There's plenty that are overstaying their welcome because they're tucked in the right corner for me to not see them and be reminded that I don't like them. So it's a part
Y'all
of it.
hear that?
Right. I know that is right. I know that's right.
Before we get into our curiosity, which is like our this or that, I would love to just ask the question about what would you like the people that know you through your social media, through your content, what's one thing that you want your followers and the world to know about the actual man behind Ken Does Dolls? That doesn't really make it into the 60-second review or an Instagram post. Like, what would you want them to know about the man behind the magic?
That's tricky. I feel like there is a lot of me that struggles with feeling like an artist that's seen as something else sometimes. You know, I grew up loving to write, and that writing translated to songwriting like in high school, and that became the thing that I was most passionate about, and then I went to school for it. So I think I partially on myself just wish that I did a better job at conveying that, like, yes, I love to talk about the things that other people are making, but I also like deeply, deeply love creating too.
I get that feeling.
And
I understand.
So
that.
I wish people knew it, but I also wish I gave myself the opportunity to show it more, because I feel like people would be receptive to it. But you know, that's something that I do struggle with still.
That's a real ass statement. I struggle with that as well, because I'm like, especially like the podcast stuff, like that's the avenue that's like taken off and everything. But I'm like, there's other stuff that I'm very good at that I wish they understood that I'm very good at. But it's almost become, I'm almost gotten even more scared to show that, because if they don't think it's good, that would crush my soul.
That's the conundrum. That's the artist problem. Yeah, it's really tricky. It's really tricky.
That's interesting.
And I want to work through it, but I also, you know, the deeper you get into this, the more you start to build a structure around it. And then there's, you know, I got 30 videos that I know I've needed to make for the past month that keep getting pushed back. So I'm like, well, when in that time am I going to sit down and revitalize my artistic practice? You know, like it's really tricky.
I'm glad you said that. I needed to hear that I'm not the only one that's struggling with that, because literally was on vacate the last week and was like kind of just sitting there, because I was just glad to just like sit there. Like, because it's been a while since just not think about too much, da. But the one thing I was thinking, I was like, I really want to do music again. But then I was like, when am I going to fucking do it? When am I going to fucking do it? Because it's not that I have that much free time. Then I'm like, okay, what do I give up? Then it's just a struggle. Oh, God. So I need to hear that I'm not the only one that's struggling with that. Thank you, boo.
I don't know.
So we're gonna play a little game, and I'm gonna actually give you a choice, because I have two games that I've crafted that we've done with other guests. But I want to give you the choice. These are all kind of like rapid fire. You don't have to think too hard about it. No gotchas or whatever. But you know, it's interesting. So one is just like a this or that. So I'm gonna give you a choice. So this is one option, this or that, where you get a choice between two things. You have to, you know, say which one you choose. The other one is a build a doll. So with doll brand. So you get to build your doll with doll brand. So I'll ask you a question.
Ooh, do a draft Voltron. Do both, Dawon. Do both.
if we got time, I'll do both. We want to do both.
Do both.
I'm open to it.
I want to hear the answer.
Okay. So we'll start off with this or that, and then we'll end with the doll Voltron. So
hold on. Let me get one in between the this and that though. Coming to the stage is Juno. What song is playing?
Oof. You know, I got really. That's too heavy. I listen to some weird stuff. So there's probably some songs that I don't know the name of. That I'll be like, that one by that artist. But you know, for a soft answer, I'll say going in line with my, you know, black man embracing softness thing. I really love Clairo's last album. So she got some great bangers on that I think I'll be happy to come out to anything off of Charm. Anyway.
Oh, that's fantastic. For a minute, I thought you were going to say spin that. So I was like, oh.
Spin that shit. Spin that shit. Spin that shit.
Okay. So we're going to do rapid fire, this or that. I'm going to give you two things. You just say which one you prefer, one or the other. Let's start with the easy one. Playline or high-end collector editions?
Right now, high-end. Yeah.
And next one. Never remove from the box or unbox them immediately?
I'd say unbox immediately.
Vintage 90s nostalgia or modern avant-garde fashion?
I'm gonna go 90s.
One perfect Grail doll or 10 amazing Playline dolls?
I'd say 10 Playline. If they're from the right time, and it'll be like collector quality for me.
Like I like my odds.
Integrity toys or Defa Lucy?
I'm biased. I've only ever had Defa Lucy. I mean, I have one Integrity toys, but you know what? Integrity does some dope stuff. I I think if I didn't feel like I was barred off from actually getting integrity toys, maybe that would be my answer.
But you're going with Defalucy on that one. All right, the question of all questions: Barbie or Bratz?
Wow. I think my heart is with Barbie. I think if I think about today, Bratz, but if I think about, you know, overall, the potential is with Barbie. But like, that's. I'll go with Barbie, but it's tricky.
I got one, Dawon, I'm curious. Labubu or Squishmallow?
I got a bag of Labubus on the floor right now, so I gotta be honest with myself. Definitely the Labubus.
All right, thanks for playing on with that. And then the next one is this is our Dragon
Oh wait,
Ball
did we ask
Tron.
him what we ask every guest though? I'm curious, like if there's
You know what,
yeah.
Yeah.
See what the straight
really
man
don't
say.
rate it, but let's throw it in there. Why don't you ask, Pharrell?
Janet or Beyonce?
That's horrible. That's
I
a
know.
horrible question.
I know.
If I want to dance, Janet. But if we're talking just like overall, I think Beyonce gives us more to pick through, more moments to pull from. That was my childhood, but I've come to love Janet. I did my first dance with my wife to Janet, so
Hey, there we go.
it's mad respect on both ends. That's messed up.
I know. I know. It's terrible. And I like how he dodged it though. He ain't really get the answer. He ain't really get the answer, but
I heard Janet. That's what I heard. I heard Janet. All right, so this next game is what we call our Voltron, and where you basically will identify a doll brand that represents this particular quality, and we're building the doll, right? Okay. So the first one is best face paint. What doll brand has the best face paint?
I think consistently, honestly, Monster High, which probably is not a popular answer, but that's what I'm gonna go with.
they do look
It's your
dope.
answer. So
They
that's
do
all
look
that
dope.
matters. All right, let's move on to best hair. We're talking quality, styles, all the things. Best hair.
Naturalistas, the black girls that I pulled up earlier. I'm gonna go with them.
I hear that. Best drip. Clothing, style, quality, all that. Best drip.
Original Rainbow High. So the first
original.
first generation.
Yeah. And then best value for purchase.
Ooh.
Here we go.
I mean, honestly, it was also original Rainbow High. Like they had it. They were giving us everything. So yeah, I'll stick with that.
And then last but not least, the most fun concepts or styles. Who can you count on to just deliver when it comes to a brand new concept or a throwback concept, like the whole style of the doll, the themes that they come out with?
I feel like I'm copping out, but it was original Rainbow High.
Rainbow High.
They did it. I need to show y'all one real quick.
Absolutely.
Just one moment, because I always think about this. But they gave us, this is an alien girl, right? So she's a little alien girl. Her top, I don't know if y'all can see, it's like a circuit board.
Oh, it's a
underneath.
motherboard. Yeah.
And then she has an aux cord for a belt and an actual CD skirt with CD
See,
slots.
that's drag. That's what that is. Rainbow High was drag, bitch. That's what Rainbow High is.
They were doing
I saw
something
Dawn
else.
wore that.
It was, yeah.
Come on, Crystal Method. That's what that is.
No, that's great. That's great. No, thank you for playing along with that. So,
Of course.
it's just, it's just a fun way to kind of get to know you a little bit more and
Absolutely.
have a little bit of fun.
And before we kind of maybe wrap it up, tell them if they don't know who you are, where they can find you on the socials, YouTube, all that stuff.
I'm on Instagram as Ken Does Dolls. I'm on TikTok as Hey It's Me Black Guy. All of it is Heyo Juno. I don't know how the search optimization works. And then Heyo Juno on YouTube too.
I love it. I love it. And then community, obviously, you know, it's 4 black men here on the screen right now. We know a lot of the well, not enough, but some of the media is talking about the Nolan Wells, the guy that became missing on July 4th with his group of friends. And especially like on this podcast, I think a lot of folks know that like we grew up, at least I know Dawon and I, and then Jerrell, like in Minnesota, we were around a lot of just like white communities and predominantly white communities and things like that, and have a lot of amazing, great white friends and diverse friend groups and things like that. But like this particular story, and it continues to occur, always like hits home for me just because of just the dynamic I grew up in, and just how infuriatingly sad it is to have this occur again and again and again. And luckily for me, I've been able to surround myself with folks that I would believe they would be like, Kerel is missing, call the cops, we doing whatever we can do to rescue our friend. And that's what makes me like so infuriatingly like sad and angry about this thing, is just like the response of this group, especially since it sounds like they've been friends for a long while. The response is not lining up to what I would think and expect from the friend groups that I've had for so long.
Yeah.
And so I'll leave it there, because obviously there's just probably more that come out of it. But at least from my perspective, and you guys could chime in how you feel, but it's just like, that's what's so sad and frustrating about this. It's just like the actions ain't matching to your friendship. To be wiping out your socials, to be lining up with lawyers and shit like that. The math ain't matching to me. And so for a lot of folks to be like, well, Kerel, why are you talking about this and da-da-da-da? It's like, because I don't think my white friends would do that to me. So that's why I'm talking up, because it's not about, oh, I'm against the white people in my life. No, it's because the white people in my life would be like, Kerel is fucking missing. And that's what's upsetting about this whole situation. Yeah. So I know we'll talk about probably more in future episodes of just like things come on out to be, but it's just like, that's like, at least from that's been on my spirit, it's just like when people kind of been DMing me, I'm like, okay, you guys are missing a point. You're missing a point.
Yeah, it's a little suspect.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying the whole thing is suspect, and we always don't always get all the details, and so we're going off of what information has been released so far. So it's hard, to not feel exactly how you're feeling, Kerel, about how are we in this situation again with another black person that's surrounded by non-black people, and something happens to them. This happened to that woman who was at a get together with 17 other other women, and she ended up missing, and for days, and nobody knows what happened. So I'm just hoping that when things come out about this, and as more discovery happens, we get a little bit more clarity on what actually went down, and that justice is served.
You gotta say something as well, Juno, there?
I mean, just that it is important to voice the feelings, I guess. I think it's really easy, just being in the world that we're in for so many reasons, to start to feel numb to these things. And I appreciate you guys just bringing it up and naming the frustration, because we got to protect our mental, but we also have to keep those things heard, So thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Anything else, Jerrell, there?
No, I'm just trying not to. I'm ready to cuss everybody out. So, like,
cuss them out.
I'm angry. Y'all know me. I'm the one who definitely always got something to say. But there are just, I just can't help but think about just even growing up as a black young man, being told, whatever you do, always make sure you do what you need to do to come home at the end of the day. And this is just another reminder why we have to have certain conversations with people who look like us that non-melanated folks don't ever have to fucking worry about, because this isn't the shit that you hear or see when it comes to, to others, or at least not as often.
Right.
And I'm upset with the amount of white folks who I know, and to Kerel, your point, I feel like if it was me missing, they would say something, but they're not saying something about this young black man. It's
Hey,
pissing me off.
Hey,
It's pissing
man.
me off because now I'm been like, oh, so I'm your black friend. Oh, so what you saying is in conversation when I'm not around? Oh, my black friend Jerrell said such a. So I know you using me like this, and now I'm mad at you, and I'm mad about this other situation. So I'm angry. I'm angry, and I want answers, and I want them not just for me, but for his family as well
Right.
too. And I want justice. I hope they get justice. We don't often see it happen to our people, but
Especially in
all I know,
Mississippi.
let me tell you, all I know, them white boys better not have that in their job and in their future. They better not be able to own shit. They better be locked the fuck up. If the evidence came out and it has something to do with it, lock them all up. Lock them all
And
up.
their mama and their daddy. Get them all.
Yeah.
Get them all. But yeah, come
On
in.
a more positive note, because not to minimize what we just talked
Right.
about, just shout out to Serena and Osaka, like just the whole Wimbledon experience thus far and what's been happening so far. It's just been great to have, such great athletes doing what they do. Speedy recovery to Serena. It was good to see her out for a little bit. And maybe we'll see her
we'll dive deep
again.
into
We'll
that
talk.
next
Yeah,
week.
we'll talk about that next week. Yeah, we'll talk about more about that next
We'll
week.
put the cat out the bag. We normally don't, but Miles
Yeah.
will be back next week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Give us the wrap up of Wimbledon, Roland Garros, and then to kind of give us a preview of the summer tournaments, if I could talk, and U.S. Open. But excited for that. But Juno, thank you, man. Like, keep doing what you're doing. Don't get overburdened. Don't be stressed. Let the joy still be there for you, because I know as success comes from this, it does maybe get a little more burdensome, especially as a creative. There's the artist spirit in you. I get it.
For sure.
Keep the joy in it, because like it's palatable. Like, it's awesome to see. So keep the joy. Keep what you're doing. You got 3 brothers here that will support
Absolutely.
you to the end of the earth, because
Thank
we're
you.
loving it. So we appreciate it, man. Appreciate
I
you coming
appreciate
on
you
here.
all. Thank you.
Anything else, Dawon, Jerrell, on your hearts and your minds?
Have a great week. Stay safe, everybody.
I know that's right. And wash your hands, your legs, and your ass, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye, y'all.